Have you ever wondered why even small amounts of alcohol leave you more drained, foggy, or anxious than you expect? Most people think alcohol only harms the liver, or that damage only happens after years of heavy drinking. But here's the truth that few realize. The moment alcohol enters your bloodstream, it begins a silent biochemical war inside you. Every sip, no matter how small, reaches nearly every cell in your body within minutes. And what happens next is far more destructive than most people ever imagine. When you take that first drink, ethanol slips easily through cell membranes because it's both water and fat soluble. That means it can move into any tissue, brain, heart, skin, muscles, without resistance. Your digestive tract absorbs about 20% of the alcohol straight from your stomach, and the rest passes through your small intestine into the bloodstream. Within about 90 seconds, it's circulating everywhere, bathing every organ in a chemical that your cells experience as a toxin. The first line of defense is your liver. Its enzymes, especially alcohol dehydrogenase, rush to break ethanol down into something less harmful. But here's the catch. That something is acetaldehyde, a compound about 30 times more toxic than alcohol itself. This molecule is known to damage DNA, disrupt proteins, and trigger inflammation. It's the same chemical found in car exhaust and cigarette smoke. For a short while, your body becomes a miniature chemical factory trying to neutralize poison. Acetaldehyde doesn't stay contained in your liver. It seeps into circulation, slipping into every cell, where it binds with fats, proteins, and even DNA. When that happens, your immune system mistakes these altered molecules for invaders and attacks them. That's why alcohol-related inflammation is so widespread. It's not just a liver problem. It's a cellular identity crisis. Your body starts to attack itself. Meanwhile, alcohol disrupts the most fundamental process in your cells: energy production. Each cell depends on mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses that convert nutrients into ATP, the fuel for every function you perform. Alcohol impairs this process by flooding mitochondria with electrons they can't handle. The result is oxidative stress, a buildup of reactive oxygen species that scorch cellular components like microscopic flames. Over time, those oxidative sparks tear holes in membranes, fragment DNA, and reduce your cells' ability to repair themselves. It's like rust forming on the inside, only much faster. In your brain, the effects are immediate. Neurons are incredibly energy hungry, relying on delicate chemical balances to communicate. Alcohol throws that balance into chaos. It enhances inhibitory signals through GABA, while suppressing excitatory ones through glutamate, numbing your perception, but also slowing cognitive repair. Repeated exposure shrinks gray matter volume, especially in areas responsible for memory, impulse control, and emotional regulation. MRI studies show that even moderate drinkers experience measurable brain atrophy over time. Your heart and blood vessels also feel the assault. Alcohol increases triglyceride production and raises blood pressure by altering how your arteries contract and relax. At the microscopic level, endothelial cells lining your blood vessels become inflamed and leaky. That's why chronic drinkers often develop hypertension, irregular heartbeats, and poor circulation. But the damage begins long before visible symptoms appear. Each glass adds a little more oxidative pressure, a little more vascular stiffness, and a little more cellular exhaustion. The immune system doesn't escape either. White blood cells rely on precise communication signals to locate and destroy pathogens. Alcohol scrambles those signals, making your immune response sluggish and chaotic. You might notice this as frequent colds, slower wound healing, or lingering fatigue. On a cellular scale, alcohol suppresses cytokine regulation and weakens the bone marrow's ability to produce new immune cells. It's like sending your body's army into battle half asleep. One of the least discussed victims of alcohol's cellular damage is the gut. Your intestinal lining is made of tightly packed epithelial cells designed to keep toxins and bacteria out of your bloodstream. Alcohol erodes that barrier, creating what scientists call leaky gut. Microscopic holes form between those cells, allowing bacterial fragments and endotoxins to slip into circulation. Once they reach the liver, they ignite further inflammation, accelerating fibrosis and fat accumulation. Essentially, alcohol transforms your digestive tract into a slow-motion fire spreading toxins throughout your body. Even your skin, the organ you see every day, reveals what's happening beneath. Alcohol dehydrates cells, constricts blood flow, and destroys collagen, the protein that keeps skin firm and elastic. Over time, this leads to dullness, puffiness, redness, and premature aging. It's not just about vanity. It's visible evidence of oxidative stress that's happening in every organ, just less obvious elsewhere. The nervous system pays one of the highest prices. Alcohol interferes with myelin, the fatty coating that protects nerve fibers and allows signals to travel efficiently. The damaged myelin slows communication between brain and body, leading to tremors, numbness, and cognitive fog. That's why heavy drinkers often develop neuropathy. But even moderate users report tingling sensations or clumsiness after prolonged use. On a cellular level, neurons become inflamed and swollen, struggling to maintain electrical stability. Hormones get caught in the crossfire too. Alcohol suppresses testosterone and disrupts estrogen balance, impairing fertility, energy, and muscle maintenance. It also increases cortisol, the stress hormone, which promotes fat storage around the abdomen and weakens the immune response further. In women, it alters progesterone and estrogen cycles, increasing mood instability. These hormonal shifts trace directly back to cellular damage in glands like the adrenals and hypothalamus. The deeper you look, the more you realize alcohol's impact is not isolated. It's systemic. It's not about one organ failing, it's about all of them struggling at once. Every cell uses antioxidants like glutathione to neutralize the oxidative chaos. But alcohol depletes those reserves faster than they can be replenished. Without enough glutathione, your body becomes vulnerable to further DNA damage, accelerating cellular aging and increasing cancer risk. That's why alcohol is classified by the World Health Organization as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same level as asbestos and tobacco. Yet, because the damage unfolds quietly and gradually, people rarely connect the dots. They blame stress, diet, or lack of sleep, unaware that the real culprit is the drink they use to unwind. The fatigue, the brain fog, the mood swings, they're not random. They're signals from billions of cells crying out for relief. Here's where the science becomes hopeful. The same mechanism that allows alcohol to poison cells also gives your body the power to heal once you stop. Within hours of abstaining, liver enzymes begin to normalize. Within days, oxidative stress levels drop. Cells start repairing mitochondrial membranes, and DNA repair enzymes kick back into action. Your body never stops trying to restore balance. It just needs the chance. But if you continue drinking, even in small amounts, the repair process can't keep up. The damage compounds because cells replicate under stress, copying imperfections into the next generation. That's why people often experience premature aging, slower recovery, and higher inflammation despite moderate drinking. Alcohol doesn't destroy you in one blow. It weakens you in 1,000 microscopic cuts. So, when you hear phrases like everything in moderation, remember that moderation doesn't exist at the cellular level. A molecule of ethanol is toxic whether it comes from 1 drink or 10. The difference is only how often your cells are forced to fight back. And each fight leaves a mark, tiny scars that add up over time until one day the system collapses. Science doesn't exaggerate this. It's not moral judgment, it's chemistry. The truth is that your cells are resilient, but not invincible. Alcohol turns that resilience into a slow-motion surrender. And if you listen closely to the brain fog, the morning fatigue, the irritability, you'll realize your body has been trying to warn you all along. That's the silent part, not the hangover, not the headaches, but the quiet erosion of vitality that happens underneath. Every cell losing a little bit of its spark, a little bit of its ability to regenerate. The tragedy is that most people won't notice until years later, when those subtle symptoms harden into real diseases. But it doesn't have to get there. Because the moment you stop feeding your body ethanol, the silence begins to reverse. Cells start to hum again, oxygen reaches deeper, mitochondria awaken. Your body isn't punishing you, it's waiting for you to give it peace. And that's the paradox. Alcohol promises escape, but what it steals first is freedom from your own biology. The human body is astonishingly forgiving. Even after years of exposure to alcohol, it holds within every cell a blueprint for repair. But the healing doesn't begin with a supplement, a detox drink, or a trendy cleanse. It starts with one simple act: removing the toxin itself. Once alcohol stops entering your bloodstream, your body launches a full-scale biochemical recovery operation. What happens next is not just detoxification, it's cellular resurrection. In the first 24 hours of being alcohol-free, your liver begins the cleanup. The enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase converts leftover acetaldehyde into acetate, a less toxic compound your body can safely use for energy. But what's remarkable is how your cells immediately respond. They shift from defense to repair. Mitochondria, which had been operating under oxidative stress, start clearing out damaged components through a process called mitophagy, a kind of cellular recycling. New healthy mitochondria take their place, restoring the ability to generate clean energy. It's the biological equivalent of switching from a flickering, overloaded circuit to a brand new power grid. Within 3 days, inflammation markers in the blood, especially C-reactive protein, begin to decline. Your immune system, which had been hijacked by the constant battle against alcohol's toxicity, finally stands down. White blood cells regain proper function. Macrophages, the body's cleanup crew, resume their normal rhythm of finding and digesting damaged cells. The result is a quiet but profound reduction in systemic inflammation. That's why people often describe feeling lighter or clearer after a few days of sobriety. It's not imagination. It's less chemical warfare inside. By the end of the first week, your sleep cycles begin to stabilize. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep, the deep, restorative stage crucial for memory consolidation and hormonal regulation. When alcohol leaves your system, the pineal gland restores its natural production of melatonin. the body begins to re-establish circadian rhythm. Cells throughout your tissues, especially in the brain and liver, synchronize again to the 24-hour cycle of light and darkness. The repair work now follows this rhythm, accelerating during deep sleep phases when growth hormone surges. It's during those hours that DNA repair enzymes, like PARP and polymerase, work overtime, scanning for oxidative lesions and stitching them back together. At the same time, something profound happens in your brain's neurochemistry. Alcohol had artificially stimulated dopamine release, fooling your reward pathways into associating intoxication with relief. Once alcohol is gone, dopamine levels initially crash. That's why early sobriety can feel dull or joyless. But gradually, the brain restores receptor sensitivity. Natural pleasures, music, laughter, exercise, connection begin to register again. This rebalancing doesn't just improve mood, it reduces cravings. Neurons start sprouting new synaptic connections, literally rewiring the circuits that were once dependent on alcohol for stimulation. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, and it's the foundation of genuine recovery. Around the second week, your gut microbiome begins to regenerate. Alcohol had wiped out beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, while encouraging the growth of harmful strains that produce toxins. As the gut environment normalizes, these good microbes return, strengthening the intestinal wall. The permeability known as leaky gut starts to seal. Less endotoxin enters your bloodstream, reducing the inflammatory load on your liver. Nutrient absorption improves, meaning vitamins like B1, B6, and folate, often depleted by alcohol, finally reach the cells that need them. Energy levels rise because mitochondria are getting proper fuel again. By the end of the first month, your liver undergoes visible regeneration. Under a microscope, new hepatocytes, the main liver cells, divide to replace those scarred by alcohol. Fat deposits shrink and blood flow through the hepatic veins improves. Enzymes like ALT and AST, which spike during alcohol use, drop toward normal ranges. Even the microarchitecture of the liver, the tiny lobules where detoxification occurs, begins to rebuild. This is one of biology's great miracles. The liver can regenerate up to 70% of its tissue if damage hasn't reached the point of cirrhosis. Meanwhile, your cardiovascular system also starts to transform. Alcohol had increased oxidative stress within blood vessel walls, causing stiffness and micro-tears. Once the toxin is gone, nitric oxide production rebounds. This molecule is crucial for relaxing arteries and improving blood flow. Within weeks, blood pressure stabilizes and oxygen delivery to tissues increases. More oxygen means more efficient metabolism, faster recovery from exercise, and a clearer mind. Even skin tone improves because capillaries are no longer inflamed. But the most profound change happens invisibly, inside your genes. Alcohol's byproducts cause epigenetic alterations, turning certain genes on or off in ways that promote inflammation, fat storage, and aging. Once alcohol is removed, your epigenome begins recalibrating. DNA methylation patterns start returning to baseline. It's as if your body is re-editing its own software, removing corrupted lines of code written by alcohol exposure. Over time, this genetic rebalancing reduces cancer risk and slows cellular aging. By the 2-month mark, neural regeneration becomes noticeable. The hippocampus, the brain's memory center, shows increased volume on MRI scans after sustained abstinence. Neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, resumes. people report improved focus, emotional stability, and creativity. What's happening beneath those experiences is a literal rebuilding of brain architecture. The neurons once suffocated by oxidative damage are now forming new connections, strengthening communication across neural networks. At this stage, hormonal systems also rebalance. Cortisol levels drop, testosterone in men rises, and estrogen-progesterone cycles in women normalize. Thyroid hormones, which regulate metabolism, become more stable. These shifts collectively restore homeostasis, the natural equilibrium your body fights to maintain. The fatigue that once felt chronic begins to lift. The constant need for caffeine diminishes. You wake up with genuine energy because your adrenal glands are no longer overstimulated by alcohol-induced stress chemistry. By the third month, the transformation is undeniable. Your immune system, once suppressed, now operates at full capacity. Antibody production increases, inflammation subsides, and oxidative markers fall dramatically. Mitochondria across all tissues, brain, muscles, skin, heart, function more efficiently. Studies show a significant drop in lipid peroxidation products, meaning the cellular rust caused by alcohol is finally being polished away. Even telomeres, the protective caps on your DNA that shorten with stress and aging, show signs of stabilization. It's not immortality, but it's biological youth regained. What's fascinating is that this recovery doesn't feel explosive. It feels subtle. The way you process stress changes. The way you think becomes clearer. The way you breathe feels deeper. Alcohol dulls these experiences. Sobriety brings them back in high definition. And beneath those subjective sensations, your cells are in silent celebration, repairing, rejuvenating, rebalancing. If we zoom back out to the big picture, alcohol's story in the body is one of distortion followed by restoration. Ethanol enters, scrambles communication, steals energy, and damages structure. But remove it, and biology returns to its original blueprint. Your cells have no grudge. They don't remember pain. They remember balance. All they need is time, oxygen, water, nutrients, and absence of poison. Here's what science makes beautifully clear. Even if alcohol has damaged your organs, the recovery curve is astonishing. Liver regeneration can begin within weeks. Brain volume lost to alcohol can begin reversing within months. Skin elasticity can rebound. Hormones recalibrate. Gut bacteria repopulate. It's not wishful thinking. It's measurable biology. But this process demands consistency. Every relapse restarts the cellular storm, the oxidative stress, the inflammation, the hormonal chaos. They return instantly. Think of it like trying to rebuild a city after a flood. You can't keep rebuilding if the floodwaters keep coming back. Real healing begins when the water stops rising for good. And maybe that's the most profound truth hidden behind all the scientific data. Your body doesn't just want to survive without alcohol. It wants to thrive. Every cell carries an ancient memory of wholeness, waiting to be reawakened. The silence that alcohol once filled with numbness becomes, in sobriety, the silence of healing. Imagine it. Billions of microscopic workers, your own cells, each repairing, regenerating, rewriting the damage one molecule at a time. Your brain's fog clearing as neurons reconnect. Your heart beating stronger as arteries soften. Your skin glowing again as collagen returns. None of it happens overnight, but all of it begins the moment you stop drinking. The truth isn't that alcohol makes life more interesting. The truth is that life becomes more alive once alcohol is gone. Every sensation, every emotion, every breath becomes data your brain can finally process cleanly. The clarity you feel isn't mystical, it's molecular. It's what happens when trillions of cells finally stop fighting poison and start doing what they were designed to do. Keep you alive, sharp, and whole. So when someone says, "One drink won't hurt," remember, that's not what your cells believe. To them, even one molecule of ethanol is an alarm, a red flag that triggers emergency mode. But when you say no, you give your body the message it's been waiting for, that it's safe now to heal. And that's when something incredible begins. Energy returns, memory sharpens, emotions balance. For the first time in years, you don't just exist inside your body. You feel it working for you, not against you. That's not recovery. That's resurrection at the smallest, most magnificent level. The level of every single cell.